Welcome to another episode of Patio Pondering Podcast. Today we continue a journey where we're talking with former classmates from Purdue University. We're going to talk with Anya Pinkerton. Sorry, I always throw in Abernathy. I get it from my mother. We're looking for some clear thinking in agriculture. But before we get into that, it's a great day to be a Boilermaker, isn't it, Anya?
It is. Oh, yeah. Let's go Boilers. It's so nice to see them kind of turn around their season, and hopefully we're getting ready to set some great things in the big dance. So, good team.
Totally. We might hit on that. I got a question about leadership that Matt Painter might come into. But there are very few people that get to ride on both sides of the risk equation in agriculture. Usually you're on the supply side or your production side. And there's a few of us like you and me that have our feet planted firmly on both sides of production and the supply side. And one of the things that you are knee deep in every day is risk management. And we always talk about how we try and protect risk on the farm. So Anya, how do you help farmers deal with risk, and how do you in particular help them deal with these black swan events, whether it's ASF in the swine realm or some bombs that fly from Israel to Iran?
I think the key to agriculture in this environment today is volatility, and volatility is huge. Just a blip on a tweet can affect the markets as it is today. There's so much risk out there where farmers just need some security to be able to make some plans and give some solidarity to their farm operation. So as a crop agent, we provide a lot of different options for risk management. I have been a crop agent for 10 years, and these policies have evolved into, quite a tailored approach to farming. We had, used to, you just have a basic multi-peril policy and maybe some hail, and that would get you covered. But through the One Big Beautiful Bill provisions that we had this last year, they've given so many more options to farmers to tailor their coverage to help give them some security that should the market take a swing, we end up in these black swan events where we have a drought, or you've got some security in knowing that you're not going to lose everything that you've worked so hard for to be able to weather that storm. So
I'll take a step even further. You and I are old enough to know when crop insurance was simple hail and wind.
Oh, sure.
So can you kind of walk through us how intricate the crop insurance world and the risk protection world has become since then?
It's so intricate. Yes. It's kind of mind-boggling to see how much more advanced we've gotten from a basic hail policy or wind policy that covers one event. Your multi-peril policy gives you so much more protection. You have protection against all weather events and revenue, and those are key factors in the fact that should the market take a swing in the fall at harvest, as it usually does, there is some downside protection. You're protecting those dollars, so that helps you be able to weather the storm. A lot of my farmers use this as catastrophic coverage, so that if we have the big weather event, they're going to have a base policy. But farmers are changing in the fact that they're now using their policies to forward market and use those base guarantees as a way to go ahead and set themselves up to guarantee that revenue. So if they've got themselves hedged and can use that government subsidy for crop insurance to go ahead and hedge themselves into the market. And, now we have additional products like the supplemental coverage option, enhanced coverage option, that gives you 80% subsidy, which is a great premium rate for farmers to be able to add additional security on top of their multi-peril up to 95%.
You've been an agent for 10 years. And
Yes.
Over those 10 years, I would assume that you have made the transition from a vendor to a team member for many of your customers.
I think so. It's funny. Actually, I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and they talked about making sure you have the right people in your boardroom. And I can really see where, as agriculture's progressed, and even on our existing farm, I know that we have key people that we use as our mentors that help us make decisions that hopefully keep us farming for a long time. And I think it's important to match yourself with those type people that are going to help make your farm better and improve your operation, give you some different tools to use. And I think that's what we try to specialize here at Bath Insurance Group. We really like to tailor set those plans for each farmer and their operation, because not everyone has the same cookie cutter coverage. Every situation's different. Everybody has a different reason. And sometimes I get stubborn and, I know how I think they should be covered, but like I said, it's everybody's option, and, they all have different theories as to why they have the coverage that they do. So, we just make sure we give them, as many options as there is on the table, which, like I said, you can change your coverage level. You can add supplemental coverages. All those things can help keep you farming.
When you're having those discussions with your customers, do you have meetings where it also includes maybe their broker and their banker?
Yes, sometimes it does. A lot of times, it's hard for guys. They don't want to pinpoint that cost of production. But when we sit down with their banker and their broker and we look at, what their plan is going to be for 2026, we have to go ahead and make some assumptions. And it's nice to sit down with all the players and have a good conversation about what the expectation is going to be and what we can do to help, set those coverage levels. Because this is the only time in the cycle where you can actually set your revenue. So, a lot of times we go to the market, we just, we get what we get, or you forward marketed some, but, you're going to take it at the end at harvest. So we ended up, we use those coverages to say, hey, this is where you can set your income for the year.
Has the mentality in agriculture to use insurance products, and I'm using insurance as broad. Let's expand it beyond just crop insurance. Are we more sophisticated about how we look at risk protection, whether it's real estate insurance or home insurance or crop insurance?
I definitely think so. We have so much more data now to say, historically, certain counties with this enhanced coverage option and the supplemental coverage options, those are county-based policies, and they have historical performance. So some counties, given their yield and the variance in yields for that particular county, some counties have more propensity to trigger than others. It just depends. So that's where you take a hard look at the data and use that information to go ahead and make an informed decision about what fits your coverage option. So yes, we're definitely using data to help move us forward and provide better service.
Well, I've used this several times. If we look back to when we were children, the risk profile might be similar to what we have today, but we have a lot more zeros that we're dealing with.
Yes, for sure. So yes, the amount of dollars that we're covering is kind of mind-boggling when you look at what it takes to put out a crop, especially this year. And that's where it's nice to have those players that can help you make an informed decision and knowing what that cost of production is. I think that's a really great tool, because then we can look at your coverage level and say whether you are adequately covered or not. And
the only way you can do that with your customers is for them to be open and honest with you about their operations, isn't it?
Sure.
Well, I think back to the coverage that we just set on a farm that my sister and I own, and we were talking, that's going to take it up to $29 or $35 an acre, whatever the number was, and I
Right.
threw back. Let's do it. Because our household is not dependent upon the income of that farm, so let's roll the dice a little bit. We got a little bit.
There you go.
Can play. So the extra $6 an acre, it's like going to the casino.
I use that word too, Jim.
Okay.
Sometimes.
I just wrote about it this morning about leadership, and I think your job is more dependent on communication than it ever has been. Can you use some examples where there's been a miscommunicate or lack of understanding from your customer that you had to change your communication pattern?
When I've had to change my communication, yes, there's constantly a lot of communication. The quotes that we generate, we work with several insurance providers, so they all have different. Their paperwork looks different. There's a lot of numbers on the page, and we have really tried to simplify and streamline that in a format that a farmer can understand, because it does get mind-boggling when you start looking at, guarantees per acre and your premium levels and the liabilities. That's a complex discussion. And a lot of farmers just sometimes get to where they just tune out the conversation because it's just more information overload for them. So, yes, we are constantly having to retrain and rework how we worked it. After doing it 10 years, we've really kind of streamlined our system, to make it a little bit more simplified. But yes, I have to redirect a lot in my conversations.
Well, I think back to 2 years ago, we switched companies because we could get a 95 boost policy with a different one.
Yes.
And I just was like, okay, sounds good to me.
Right.
Like, because it's not my expertise. It paid off really big time for us, but it was confusing because you're just like, okay, this isn't my expertise. I trust you in my case, Bob.
You're correct. There's a lot of trust involved. And I think we built that rapport over a number of years. It is very complex, and you have to trust that your particular agent has that knowledge and the expertise to keep current of what is offered out there. I know we are doing some unique strategies this year with certain farms, and it's amazing, actually. This has been the funnest year for me as far as being able to have the flexibility to do a lot of different tools to help farmers in a lot of different ways. So I think it's important to have someone who's up to date and can keep up with all the madness that we have. But like you said, it is we're at the bottom line. We're just trying to help farmers, and that's the leadership part of it. I love being able to help a farmer weather the storm. I've had a couple of them come back and say, without crop insurance, I don't know that I would have been able to finish out the year, and that is so rewarding to me. And it helps me sleep at night for our own farm because I always laugh and say I have people that, want me to get up in the morning. Because it's, we have to pay those bills too.
Oh, I hear you. And I just had a text message with my supplier. But I think your resume from Purdue to the FSA office and in lending and now in crop insurance puts you in an interesting position where you've been on both sides of that governmental desk. So does that give you more insight on how to help your customers?
I try. I have been very fortunate to be involved in so many different facets of ag that I think my experience at the FSA office and understanding how those government programs work, and then moving on to a lender, being able to understand the financial aspect of it, then into crop insurance has given me quite a circle of experience and connections that, it's nice to be able to lean on those offices or have experience with those offices. If I have a question, I know they're under a lot of pressure with all the farm program changes that are going on. So it's nice I can communicate that to the customers and maybe help alleviate the stress from those offices having to take that phone call too.
You brought up the change in the massive amount of information that we have, particularly with the big, beautiful bill and what it means for crop insurance now. How do you balance between understanding when one of your farmers wants to know the information or doesn't want it and just trust you?
Sure. A lot of that goes off of instinct. I think it's just a rapport. Every farm relationship I have is a little bit different. And, I think the beginning farmers it's crucial that they understand all that they have the options for, especially with the big, beautiful bill and the way those subsidies are affecting them. They need to understand that information and understand what they can take advantage of with those subsidies. Now, my older farmers, I think it just depends on their operation, their debt load, how much they want to take on a risk or how much they don't want to be insured. That's basically works with the experience of working with them year after year. And a lot of it is based on trust.
As we get back in that trust, I listen to podcasts, and one that I listen to out of Iowa talks a lot about household income as it fits into a farm budget. And sometimes we assume our household income is $50,000 a year, just throwing out a number, when in reality it's 125.
Okay.
Do you have to have those discussions with your farmers to understand, hey, here is what you're really at risk?
We We do. And it just depends on if those farmers are 100% farming and that's their sole income. I think it's even more apparent to make sure we understand what those crop insurance levels need to be, because they are carrying 100% of the risk and the income to provide for that family and all the other fixed costs that they have. So those are definite conversations that we have. When you have off-farm income to supplement your farming operation, that's another conversation, but we definitely have to take all that into consideration when we figure out their risk profile.
So this instinct you talk about and being able to communicate, was that cultivated in Weatherall in COM 114, or were those skills that you learned working in Block and Bridle and Sigma Alpha?
I would say COM 114 was definitely probably a basis for some of those communication skills that but I think those communication skills have evolved through all the organizations I was in, and then in having to deal with agriculture and farmers, you get a real taste of how to interact with a farmer. Some of them are very direct, and some of them are just want to beat around the bush. So you just kind of have to, as experience leads you into those conversations, figure out what are they trying to say and what do they want help with. And I think I had a wise person tell me any time I went into a different career, just tread lightly, don't make a lot of changes, and earn trust. And I think that is the best way to advance in ag, is just to earn people's trust by doing what you say you're going to. That's always been a big proponent of the way I grew up. Just do what you say you're going to do and be honest. And I think the rest of it will move forward from there.
Well, you've had the guts to make career changes. I mean, you think about going from extension to lending and lending into crop insurance. Those are different in philosophies. How did you mentally prepare yourself to make those changes?
Just gut instinct. I have always wanted to challenge myself, and I sometimes have never wanted to have any doubts or any regrets. So I've always pushed myself in anything I do that, the rest will fall from there. And that's how my career has evolved. I've been lucky enough to be involved in so many good organizations that when I took off as a lender, I wasn't sure how those conversations would go. And I worked with some wonderful families that really, really cut my teeth on how to lend. And then when I had the opportunity to come to Bath Insurance Group and be a crop insurance agent, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But I had a lot of good training and preparation, and we have been able to grow the business. I started out with one other agent, and now we're up to 8, insuring in 3 states. So I've had a lot of help and good mentorship along the way to help get me to where I am today.
Okay. This is not on the list of things that we were going to talk about. You said you went from 1 to 8 agents, correct?
Yes.
So your book went from $1 million, $2 million to many millions, right? Correct?
It's moving forward. Yes.
It's moving forward. Yeah. And the number doesn't matter. It's grown. So your responsibility has grown.
Yes.
How were you able to take those lessons from your mentors and apply that as you build your own team?
Those lessons that I've learned, it's been a lot of undertaking and hard work, and a lot of good conversations. I have a lot of good agents. We've really been careful in how we've tried to grow and get the right people in place to do that. So I have, just like I said, had some great mentors that have kind of helped me along to show me how to handle that along the way. But my role has changed a little bit, but it still is very fun. There's nothing better than to get into the weeds with a farmer and talk about their operation. So that's where my heart is. And luckily I have agents that are very independent, so they don't have to have me right at their fingertips. But because at the end of the day, I'm just a farm girl that really loves to just talk about farming.
There's a little bit of humbleness coming in here from Anya because you're not just an agent, you're the president of the firm. So it's a little bit more.
Well, at the end of the day, that's where my roots are. That's where it's funny. My grandma told me, like, don't marry a farmer. I didn't really know I wanted to be a farm kid. And at the end of the day, I really do love farming. But the best people, I work with the best people in the world. There's nothing more rewarding than to watch people grow their operations and grow their families there. I just really enjoy each and every person I work with.
I've used your line a little bit differently when working with some of my sales team and when we got a little too far in the weeds with planning sales calls or planning sales campaigns, I distilled it down. We're just a bunch of farm boys and girls selling feed to people raising livestock. Mm-hmm. That's all that's in simplest terms.
Sure.
And sometimes we make it too complicated.
Right.
How do you allow your team to make it simple?
Well, I think that's because our motive is simple. I mean, our goal is just to be purely a resource and helpful for that farmer. I always tell a customer, I can be as involved in your operation as you want me to be. And I can insure you from your ankles all the way to the top of your head. So you have to tell me, what your risk tolerance is, but we make it simple. And I think my agents, we all have a very simplistic view of that. Our heart is in ag and our heart is in helping farmers and just doing a better job of helping educate them about what their risk tolerance is and what their coverages should be, to help them. Because I don't like paying the premium either, but at the end of the day, I really can sleep at night knowing I've got myself covered should an adverse event happen.
Comfort. That's a great word to use.
Sure.
Insurance provides comfort, and we can throw risk and risk tolerance, and we can throw protection, but it's comfort, and that's a human emotion.
Yes.
As we deal with more zeros, the way that we can help ourselves gets less. And I use a story of my area in early 1980s. If you went bankrupt and you stopped farming your 320 acres, you could have an auction, sell your equipment, get a job at International Harvester, Magnavox, something like that. And over a period of years, you could pay back what you owe. With the zeros that we're doing, if you go belly up on a farm in southeast Indiana, you got zeros that you might not ever be able to pay off. How do we in ag understand that the mental health challenge we have isn't just human, it's exacerbated with how big our risks are?
You hit the nail on the head. There is, with the current ag climate and the stress on agriculture with prices and input costs, it's mind-blowing what a farmer puts out to put out his crop. And I think when we can provide a little bit of security with saying we have a level of coverage for you that's going to at least help cover that outlay of costs, I think that helps eliminate some of that stress. But it's very important that we have those one-on-ones. We sit down and we have those conversations so that they understand what their coverage is providing them, and they understand, am I covered adequately? That's a huge proponent. I mean, don't just do what your neighbor's doing down the street. We need to look at your operation, and we need to look at how, your costs, and because everybody has a different number.
Well, and you have to have those conversations. From our standpoint on our vehicles, we're maxed out on every one of our vehicles that we can. Legally, we can't go any higher than 500 or whatever the numbers are. Mm-hmm. But our agent set up, hey, let's get you an umbrella policy.
Sure.
So that you're more comfortable with what we have.
Right.
Oh, that's a good idea. But the only way you do that is having those conversations and understanding your customers and their risk tolerance.
Certainly.
So how did you make the jump from an animal science major at Purdue, a girl that loves showing cattle, to where you are today?
How did I make the jump? Well, to be honest, organic chemistry was not my friend. I was going into I really wanted to be a veterinarian, and God had other plans. And it's funny. I always feel like he puts you where he wants you to be. So, in every career change, I've kind of felt the urge to always try to advance myself and, push forward. And so, when I was in FSA, worked for the, FSA here in, Franklin County for about 15 years and then, moved on to, manage the, Adams County office up north. And I loved that job. But it was 2 hours from home. So, when I had the opportunity to, move into a lending profile, I was fortunate enough to get hired at Midwest Ag and became an ag lender and got to see a little bit different perspective on ag. My government experience gave me opportunity to work with farmers, but I was always stuck with, government regulation. When I moved into lending, it was more of an individualized approach, and you got to actually work into the weeds of the operation and really feel like you made a difference. So I loved that avenue. I loved my customers I worked with, and then I had the opportunity to start running the Bath Insurance Group when my local bank bought crop insurance book and said, "Hey, I think we want you to try this. Do you think you can run it?" And so, that's been a true labor of love in the way that I have, I wasn't sure what I got myself into, but, I really enjoy helping farmers provide that risk coverage and, help them, like I said, every day. And my every day is different for me. So that's part of it too. If anybody knows me, knows I don't like to sit around and I get bored easy. So I love that every day is different. And I love hanging out with, meeting those farmers and being able to connect with them.
We use faith in ag all the time.
Sure.
And I remember back to, Janet's mother's kitchen in Claypool, Indiana. Mm-hmm. She had a tapestry and it's got the Bible verse, the faith of a farmer. And you think about the faith that agriculture has, whether you're putting AI, a breeding of a cow, or you're putting that seed in the ground, it's all faith. Mm-hmm. Where does faith fit in your journey and how you were a farm wife, a business leader, and a grandparent?
Faith is huge. I never quite understood when I was a kid, the stress and the faith of putting a seed in the ground and hoping it turns into a crop until, I was probably, married and Kevin and I were putting out our first crop. Then I really understood the faith of having that, wonderful process happen. And, as you grow your operation, you grow your family, I think we just have to look at the bigger picture of things. And I think that's where the mental stress of farmers, they can get focused on the negative aspects of their operation. And it's easy to get down. But at the end of the day, you have to have faith that it's amazing how rallies happen, things happen out of the blue. Like I said, I think you have to have a strong faith to, weather the storm in ag. And I think, that's just something that is really unique about this, sector of the world that, we've got great tried and true tested farmers that, they have such a strong resolve. And I just really respect that.
Tried and true. And that's the dichotomy of agriculture. We have the tried and true, we have the heritage, we have the nostalgia, we have this always works with, man, we got to do something a little bit different. So you have to balance comfort with the uncomfortability of taking some risks.
Sure. And I think, this downturn in ag and this, things are tight, and I think guys are looking at alternatives. And I think there's going to be some unique solutions. There's going to be producers that are trying different unique things. It kind of forces farmers to look at their operations in a different light and say, hey, maybe we need to make some adjustments here, or let's try this. So I think there's going to be some real exciting things come out of this slump where, we may really propel ourselves into the future with some, new technology and new advancements that, we haven't seen before. So.
Yeah, and that advancement's not buying a new $1 million combine.
Right.
Oh, shoot. Did I let my bias get out? No, I think you brought a really good point about technology, and we're going to use technology different than we thought. I was on a group a few weeks ago, and this discussion on technology did not revolve around electronics. I mean, that's the first thing we think. Technology is electronics.
Sure.
So you think, oh, what can I put in my tractor to do something better? And the discussion on technology was AI, and how do we use data, and how do we make these decisions, not push button. So how are you using, or do you think you'll use AI with Kevin at home on the farm or at your insurance agency?
Well, AI it's coming, and I think it's an advancement that we're all going to have to embrace in some way or another. And through our crop insurance agency, AI is going to really provide us with more insights on trends in agriculture and production trends and risk, and how those certain areas would probably trigger claims. I mean, there's going to be a lot of data that we can use to help us make really good informed decisions moving forward about how the insurance should actually look in particular counties and areas. So I think that for sure. And we use precision with our agency. In fact, that we can go ahead and report our acres using precision data, which helps eliminate some of those fringe acres that maybe FSA is saying that the field's a 13.5 acre field when it's actually a 12.8. So we try to use precision to go ahead and shave a little bit of premium off those producers to help make their bill a little bit cheaper. But no, I think AI is going to be an integral part of how we do business here in the future.
Mm-hmm. I love that when you're calculating yield or paying premiums, you want that 12-acre field to be 11.5.
Right.
Yeah, but when you're getting an indemnity, it's 13.
You want yeah, that's right, exactly. And that's what I always tell them. Like, it's up to you. You can either pay to insure those extra acres, or you can use precision to cut them out. Everybody has their own opinion. So that's what makes it fun, is that I work for the farmer.
There you go. Yes, I just did what they told me to do.
Yep.
Anya Pinkerton, she's like Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing.
Oh, that's funny.
So what do you and Kevin do on your farm?
In regards to?
Well, you got rid of the cows.
So we did.
Just now those lazy crop farmers that go to Florida every year?
Well, I am still working on him to twist his arm, and if anybody knows me, knows that I would be glad to get a few cows back, because I miss them terribly. But our family has grown, and so we've got grandkids now. They're 2.5 hours away, so I'm not sure how much of the livestock we'll be able to continue or get back. But we are row cropping corn and beans, so we're very involved in that and our family's operation. So I enjoy that part of it. It's not quite the same as having the livestock, but it does free my time up a little bit more to help with my additional responsibilities here at the insurance group, whether that, sometimes it's trade-off there.
Yeah, you trade one form of husbandry for another form of husbandry.
Yes.
I wrote today in my blog about an experience I had at a fish fry last week. And I was following one of our leaders around, like a chicken with her head cut off, getting ready. And we were just walking in from the trailer. We had just gotten some cups or something. And I looked at her and said, "Hey, tell me what you need done, and I'll get it done." And you could see her just kind of have the veil of relief. Like, okay, okay, here's what I need to do it. And I went and did it. Because far too often in ag, we try and be self-sufficient. I can do it. Whether it's preparing a planter or working cows, we are reticent to ask for help. How do we change that mentality where we can either ask for help or say, I have a solution to help you?
I think as this climate, the ag sector gets so, as the ag sector is more stressed, I think that lends people to realize that they have to have a little bit of help. And I think that is a wonderful thing to have. Like I said, the more people you have at your table helps provide a little bit of stress relief and helps provide you with a little bit of a different vantage point that can help you along your way. I know I could not do my job without my team. They're amazing and provide so much support. But I've learned that over the way. It's hard to ask for help, and sometimes I ask too much. But it is also very nice to have that. And I think, like you said, this ag sector or the situation we're in with ag has helped maybe force that a little bit for people to see that it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to have people in your corner because you need them, frankly.
Mm-hmm. And if you need to be strategic with who you ask for help, that's okay. Maybe you call Anya and say, hey, I need some help on an idea of this instead of calling the guy that's next door. We need to just be strategic about it sometimes.
Sure. That's the fun part of my job is when we get to think outside the blocks because I have a lot of ideas. Sometimes they're a little bit off kilter, but I think, it's nice to have somebody you can bounce those off of and be able to help, know that you're in a controlled environment. You have somebody, a mentor to be able to feed those ideas off of.
Mm-hmm. So we started the podcast talking about it's a great day to be a Purdue Boilermaker.
Yes, it is.
For the first time in Big Ten tournament history, a number 7 seed won. And for the first time in Big Ten history, a team won 4 games in 4 days. Now you played basketball in high school, right?
No, I was a track star.
Okay. Sorry. Well, anyways.
No, but my kids were basketball players. So,
yeah, you understand.
I'm a huge basketball fan. Oh, yes.
So you understand, and being from Indiana, we understand basketball, and we understand what a Herculean task that was to win 4 games in 4 days.
And they broke the assist record for the tournament. Did you get that part? They
broke the assist record for the tournament.
Yes. 42 turnovers, 42 assists versus 30. So.
But as we, as Purdue fans, looked at our season, it is a season of highs and lows. I posed this question. What did Matt Painter, his coaches, and the seniors do in the last week that changed that team's trajectory from where it was?
Wouldn't we all like to know?
Yes.
I do hope that does come to light because I'm sure there's been a real hard look at the team and hopefully I assume they help improve communication. It just seemed like there was a little bit of a discombobulation with the way the team was working out during their slump. So I'm anxious to hear or hopefully know what he told them.
Yeah. And I think back to a crop cycle.
Okay.
Preseason, October, we get the preseason poll. Oh. That's like right now. Okay. I'm getting seed delivered. I'm making plans.
Sure.
And then we hit preseason. Everything's going great. Everything got planted well. And then we hit January and it's like, God, it didn't get the right amount of rain. It's missed me. I had a hailstorm that came through, all those little things that didn't happen. And we could be destitute.
Right.
And you can think that Wisconsin game was missing that last rain in August. I'm like, yeah, this ain't gonna be fun. I better call the elevator, say I'm not gonna be able to fill my contract. And then all of a sudden this combine starts running and wow, this is a little bit better than I thought it was gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
I played baseball for a few years, so I never was in the trenches like this. But I think there's a lot of commonality between what we saw on the Purdue basketball court this year and what you and I deal with working with farmers every year.
I agree. I think that's a very good analogy because the Purdue season was so emotional. I touched so many highs and so many lows, and I think our crop seasons 2025 for our particular agency was exactly that same sentiment. There were some really outstanding yields after some horrible weather events, and then there was some real disappointments for certain people, and it's a challenge to be able to celebrate those moments with the farmer and be able to be like, oh, this is going great for you. And then turn around and like, I'm so sorry. This is I know you've had to go through so much, but I do find comfort in the fact that we've got you covered. So that is the baseline, but you can't help but get a little bit sentimental with these farmers as they go through these struggles, with their own farm and these weather events. Some take it better than others.
Yes. But I think the bigger lesson from the Purdue basketball season this year is not buying into the outside hype.
Sure.
And the preseason hype came from the outside. Look what they're bringing back. You got TKR. You got Braden. You got, not Foster. That's not
Show your age there. Come on, Jim.
Yeah, everybody else calls him Foster Lawyer. Why did I call him Foster Lawyer?
Yeah. Fletcher.
Fletcher, yes, you got Fletcher. And then you got this new guy from Clough, and you got this unknown Israeli, and he's going to bring this. So the hype fed on itself. And then we started doing well, and the hype kept going and kept going and kept going. But the hype didn't match the reality of that team. Well, the team, so you could say the team overperformed. We could relate that easily to ag. Like, oh, look, we're $1.50 higher on beans than we were at harvest time. We're on the edge of a new golden era in ag, as our Secretary Rollins said. I think what you've talked about with communicating with your clients and bringing some reality is kind of what I hope our coach did to make the team do what they did.
That it could be very. I hope so too. Whatever he said was a wonderful thing. So
yes, it was. Yes,
however,
it was.
however they've turned it around, we're grateful and hopeful for the next few games.
Exactly.
Well, get to Indy.
This is the first podcast where Purdue basketball was integral to our discussion about farmers.
Yes, and I'm tickled. I didn't think it was going to happen.
I wrote this game off yesterday, and my thought process was they're gassed after that game on Saturday, and Michigan is going to kick their butt, and we'll be happy with a 3 seed, maybe a 2, and it'll be a good season. And when they came out and won, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not a faithful fan.
You need to be a faithful fan. I think that the team has so much resolve, and you can tell that they are more focused and definitely directed on advancing. So that's an exciting thing to see, a little bit of life out of that team that during their slump was just lacking. So thank you, Matt Painter, for whatever your leadership and circling that wagons.
But let's turn this back to your team of agents that you work with.
Yes.
The thing that told me that there was something different with this team performing these 4 games was Daniel Jacobson on Saturday, where he showed emotion, and you could tell that he wanted to play and he wanted to be that big man for that play that I watched. And in retrospect, that told me that there's something different about this team. Has there been a time on your team, regardless of whether it was at FSA or the lending or in crop insurance, where you had a team member that did their job, but something clicked and it was like, okay, now they get it?
Oh, yes. I've several of my agents, it's been fun to watch them evolve in their career and advance in their knowledge, but it is really rewarding to see them get it and then move forward and go out and do, good things when they work with customers. So, that training program and the especially with crop insurance and trying to understand all the nuances of coverages, that takes a couple years. So it's challenging. So it is. I would say in most recently in my crop insurance when I've been able to help those agents really step up to the next level of what they can do and what they can offer their customers is by far the most rewarding.
Cool. I'm glad we were meeting today because it fits so well with our emotions as Purdue fans.
Right. Our
understanding of how a basketball team is just a proxy for our lives as we lead our own teams.
Right. Yeah. It is. And it's funny now that I'm older. It used to be I was a teammate. Now I get to be the team leader. So I guess that just shows how old I'm getting.
No, it's not. We're not old. We're just experienced.
That's right. That's it. There you go. Experience.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Anya, we in every podcast with 5 questions. And I had somebody push back a few weeks ago saying, hey, you need to cut it down to 1 or 2. I'm like, no, this gives me an idea of how my guests have grown in ag.
Oh, okay.
So my first question for you to wind things up is, what is one lesson from ag you carry with you every day?
Work ethic. I grew up on a grain livestock farm and am so proud of my family and how hard they worked. But I watched them work every day. And that's the other part of my job where my phone is always on. I'm always able to, I always tell a customer, just give me a call whenever whenever the moment strikes. And my family did that. So they instilled that work ethic in me. I always want to be there for my customer and as they worked hard on their farm operation. So that's probably my main thing that I've learned through ag.
If you could have coffee with one historical figure in agriculture, who would it be?
One historical person in ag. Well, I'd really like to have coffee with Brooke Rollins. It would be interesting to see what all the issues that she's dealing with and where we're going in agriculture. That if I could get hindsight into that would be probably the best coffee date I could have at the moment.
Well, she is helping with some historic decisions in the Department of Ag.
Yes, she
so I
is.
think that's a great one. Yeah.
She is.
What is one quirky or underappreciated thing about ag more people should understand?
I think one quirky thing about ag that a lot of people don't understand is I think historically farmers are used to being their own person in their own operation. And I think as we move forward in agriculture, the quirky part about it is really it's a network of people. And I've been blessed with a network of people that help me shape my business every day. And I think farmers are very stubborn in thinking they're on their individualized operations where really it's great to bounce ideas off of other farmers and you get so much insight into how to help make your farm better. And I think that is probably a little of a tendency for farmers to, be individualized. But I think as we evolve forward, they're definitely maybe looking outside the box for other alternatives.
Yeah. What is your favorite ag-related tool, product, or innovation?
My favorite ag tool or innovation. Oh, goodness. Auto steer. Makes it pretty nice.
I push back when people said auto steer because it's too simplistic. But auto steer to me is no different than my grandfather who had that mare that would cultivate sugar beets by herself. And she would get to the end of the row and she would jerk the cultivator to wake my grandfather up.
Right.
And she knew that when the sugar beets changed to going across you, she had to stop.
That's
so we've
funny.
had auto steer for years. It's just we kind of threw it away with horses.
There's one way of looking at it.
Yes. So what is one small change that could make a massive impact on ag's future?
A small change would, again, going back to, I think, networking, a little more information, a little more data sharing among farmers, trying to, it's hard to get individualized farms to job share, but, sharing of equipment, figuring out how to accomplish farm tasks on a broader level. I think those are all things that could help move ag forward.
That's a great one. That is a really good one. Well, Anya, it's been a great conversation to catch up with you about what you're doing and understanding how you fit in risk management and with your customers.
I appreciate the time. It's good to see you.
Good seeing you. Well, for my listeners, here's another conversation that led us to places we didn't expect. And, of course, it was made better by talking about Purdue basketball.
Sure, for sure. Well, they're up.